Hello, everyone, and welcome to The Jungle presented by Deserto. It's your boy dGon here with Dom and Monty, and we're back after a long hiatus because we're at Worlds. It's time to talk the global scene. All the major regions had their finals, and we know who is going where in terms of Worlds. Guys, how's it been? Dom, how are you, man?
It's good. Yeah, was able to finish all the co-streams and stuff. That was the last co-stream of the year, and now it's just live views. It's just Worlds content.
So now you're into the easy part of your year, which is Worlds, right? Where you can only stream for 8 hours a day instead of 12 or 14.
More than
Yeah,
that.
it was more like 16 during LPL because it was like, I mean, the LPL playoffs, they were going to 5 games. Like all of these series were just going to 5 games. So you get a 5-game final, and then there's like a 2-hour break, and then LEC and LCS was going actually to 5 games quite a bit as well. So there was some days. I mean, there was the day with the 8-hour pause where it was literally like I woke up at 3 a.m. I mean, I had like a 1 or 2 hour break in between LPL and LEC, but I woke up at 3 a.m. I finished that day at 11 p.m. my time, and then I have to eat, go to sleep. I have to wake up the next day at 4 a.m. So it was 3 a.m. to 11 p.m. 4 or 5 hours just in between. It's not even like you get to sleep. Like people think like, oh, well, you got to sleep for 5 hours. Like, no, that's not how sleeping works. You don't just instantly like, I don't fall asleep like in my chair the second I hit like stop streaming and then wake up, like wake up in 5 hours, like ready to go again. I like fucking just sit up like the Undertaker or some shit, and I'm ready to fucking go. So
You're the man in the box, Dom. That's what you do. That's what you get for being there for like most of your life.
That was a tough weekend. That was probably the hardest weekend all year.
The funny thing about that was my experience was very different than yours, Dom. So like I started watching, what was it, the TSM FlyQuest game. That was the game that just lasted until the end of time.
Yeah.
So as soon as the pause,
EG TSM.
Oh, EG TSM. Yeah. Sorry.
Yeah.
So I started watching the series, and then I was like, the pause hit, and I was like, well, fuck this. I'm just gonna go buy some ribs. And so I went to the butcher, bought some ribs, put them in my smoker, smoked them for 4 hours, ate them, and then the series still hadn't ended.
I saw the tweet. It looked delicious.
I just thought it was funny that because smoking meat takes a fucking long time. Like 4 hours is very short. So it was just really funny that I was able to like complete the entire like store to consumption smoking experience within the space of one League of Legends best of 5.
Yeah, well, if you guys at home have some time and you want to watch some content that you can finish all of it and catch up with this whole year of League Esports, head on over to Deserto and subscribe to the channel. Got a ton of stuff there. We already surpassed Astralis, and now we're going after Excel. And the current gap at the time of recording, we have 12.6 thousand subscriptions. Excel has 25,300 subscriptions. It's almost like the gold lead they had that they threw to all of a sudden lose everything and not make it to Worlds after having Fnatic on the ropes. So please go subscribe and make that happen here for Deserto so you don't miss any of the content. Monty, you are not in your normal spot because we know that Dom's in his box that everyone normally sees him in. Where are you recording from? Where are you at today?
I'm at Tahoe, so I could usually come here up during the summer. This year, I was doing so much with League of Legends content that it got pushed into the right before Worlds time. This is the only time you have, as I'm sure Dom can appreciate. This is the only time you have.
Yep. I mean, it's this.
What are you doing? Are you gonna go take a vacation, or are you just gonna watch Champions Queue?
I'm probably going to do the tracking the pro stuff. I mean, the thing is, like, streaming is really finicky, like, you spend months so pretty much at the beginning of June, I spent months grinding my stream, and like my numbers were like probably the lowest they've ever been, because I took an extended break before that, and LPL, like, there's just more competition now, like casual streams with LS doing LCK, so there's just a lot of competition. So I spent like 3.5 months grinding, and this is like the first time that I've actually been able to get my stream back to the point that it was before I was banned. Like when Riot banned me, they fucking took me out. That was like, I mean, it took years, literally years to recover from that.
I know that feel.
Yeah. So, I mean,
Please
essentially,
explain.
like,
I'm not familiar.
essentially, I don't have the luxury of just taking a break now and letting things die down again. Die down again. Like if you take time off streaming, it doesn't matter. Like people will be like, "Nah, good, take time for yourself." That's what everyone will say to you. But in reality, you will just see rapid decline. So you just have to like try to
See,
keep it going.
this is the fallacy that everybody uses right now, because I can bridge this. You ready for this transition
Go for it.
into Danny? Oh no, Danny, his poor mental health, which, I'm sorry if he's having issues. Truly, I am. Like, that fucking sucks. Competition is very difficult. But the thing that Dom's saying is, like, people will say that they care about your mental health, but the reality is, if you are not consistently offering them the fruits of your labor, then that's actually truly what they actually care about. And then they go away. And, as shitty, no doubt, as it has been for Danny, and I do sympathize for him, at the end of the day, if you are not able to compete in the most important moment of the year for your team, your value goes down. And as harsh as that sounds, that's just the reality of being a pro gamer or being a competitor at the top level. And so, it's awesome that EG was able to replace him with a more meta player. Seems like that was kind of advantageous to EG. Just gonna put that out there a little bit.
The situation seems a little weird to me.
It's a little sus, right? It's a little sus. dGon, I saw you tweeting about how they hadn't actually put him on the sub roster, and then magically he was allowed as an emergency substitution for emergency reasons that are not made public or known. So it just seems incredibly suspicious, and also very easy for teams to abuse in the future when a team, because we can't be inside other people's heads, obviously. Perhaps something more serious occurred. That's certainly a possibility. We're all in the dark, or not. I shouldn't say all. I am in the dark. Maybe you guys know things I don't know. But I will say that this sets a really, in my opinion, bad precedent for competitive integrity with the league, and is I think ripe for abuse in the future, even if it wasn't abused this time. And I think objectively was a better outcome for EG's competitiveness in this series, because it really changed the way that the bans had to happen for 100 Thieves on a very short notice. Yep. So, I mean, the whole thing was bad, in my opinion. It was handled badly. And also, as much as people like to say that they support mental health, the reality of this situation is that Danny's value in the market has gone down as a result of this, because you just don't know if he's going to be there for the most important parts of your team. And like, here's a kind of hot take, but like, this is going to sound really shitty, and I understand that, but like, Doublelift played a finals after his mom was killed. And I don't think, I'm surprised he did that. And I think that must have been extraordinarily difficult. But at a certain, like, that's a really hard situation. But he ended up playing that final. So,
yeah. And I think what I gathered from it, so the decision was, I guess the decision making was made by new commissioner, Jackie Felling. Jackie comes from Gears of War. She also spent time, was it Overwatch League, Monty, where you interact with her as well? Yep. And so Jackie has spent time as a commissioner, as the head. And so she made it known as it went through the whole process up and down that, like, hey, look, mental health is a priority now, as it always should be, but here's some action behind it. We think that this is an emergency, so therefore
that's a new thing, by the way, that mental health is a priority, because like, so for example, I had, for people that don't know, I had like an intense battle with panic disorder in 2014, and it was like pulling teeth to even get them to allow me to take a pause. Like, I had to have like medical, like I had to go to like all these like doctors and shit just to get like the forms needed that they would allow me to take a pause, like when I was having a literal panic attack on the stage, which, like, I mean, I just like played through it, like those times where my team, like, Voy was like the person that knew me the best, so he could literally tell, like, I was pretty good at like masking the symptoms or whatever, but he knew, and he would just like look over sometimes, and I just knew that he knew. It's like, oh shit, like this guy is like fucking, he is feeling it right now, and we were just like having to play through it, and it took weeks to even get them to like let me take a pause. So I don't know. I mean, I just feel like it's just I guess it just depends on who you are within the league,
Well,
you know.
I'm curious, Dom, what you think about this, because considering you were in that situation,
Yeah.
do you think that this is just something that pro players have to? It comes with the job, and like you just have to perform in that moment, or do you think what do you think the correct course of action is?
Well, I mean, I think like obviously, if it's becoming like a danger to your well-being, then that's a different conversation. I mean, you
Sure.
have to go
Yeah.
person to person, and it's like one of those things where it's impossible to know like how bad somebody's mental health really is. At least, you know, I mean, it's really difficult to actually quantify how bad people's mental health is. What I will say though is that in like ridiculous mental stress is part of being a professional player. Every pro
Yep.
player deals with a lot of mental stress while being a pro player, and that is part of the job. So I don't know how much of the job it is, but like I will say that is something that you're always, I mean, you're having to play it in front of a bunch of people. You're getting criticized. Like all players are getting death threats on social media. Obviously none of this shit should happen, but like it's not good for your mental state that when you're having like, you know, a downtime or you play like poorly for a couple games, it's, yeah, I mean, you pride yourself. It's going to be one of the things that as a human being you're going to value the most in yourself. So when you put everything into something and people are like, you're shit at that, like you're like, it's almost like they're saying you don't have value, even though it's not direct. Like that's how you feel, you know. This is what you do for a living. So, and this is like probably your dream, and most people are putting everything into it. So I will say that like when you are playing poorly, it does affect like your mental health to some degree. Even like, you know, like for example, when I was a pro player, you had relegations, right? So if we played poorly for a couple weeks and suddenly we start heading down to like 6th, 7th in the standings, like you're worried about like, oh shit, like are we gonna have a job? What am I gonna do? Like I'm fucking out of school for like 3 years. Can I go back? Like where am I gonna live? Like you have all these types of things which will like like it's not like that is the only reason you could have like issues with your mental health, but that is something that will actually impact your mental health where you don't even know like like where you're going to be staying, like how your life's going to operate. Like just having an unsure future is actually pretty tough. So I mean, I don't know. I think it's really
I
hard
will say I think that's probably less of an issue now, considering the amount that the players are being paid.
Exactly.
Because like, you know, these guys, fortunately, and I think this is a good thing, you know, if something goes wrong, they have time and resources to figure out their next move. Like you could make enough money in a year to pay for your entire college afterwards.
Yeah. Definitely.
And most players do, in fact, because their housing and food and everything are taken care of. So it's just pure profit. So, you know, you can when you're making pure profit, if you're making 300K a year, you could pay for your literal entire college with that money.
So after you get your Balenciagas and your, you know, your Gucci slides.
And yes, once you buy all the stupid shit. Yeah.
But I mean, essentially, like, I mean, I think that there should be. I mean, look, if somebody just literally cannot, like, people handle stress differently. If somebody literally just cannot perform the task, you can't force them to if it's going to be a danger to themselves. But one of the things that I think is kind of weird here is the point that Thorn brought up, where they were listing a secondary coach as one of their subs so they could bring extra people. And I think that is like them, like, so they're essentially abusing a rule because they're banking on the fact that we're not going to have an emergency. But then when you do have an emergency, then you just get the sub anyway. It's like, but they're like other people might actually be listing their subs. That's the issue that I have with that.
Yeah, and also this is because Riot will only pay for a certain number of people to attend these events. So if you want to bring more people, then the teams have to pay for them. So what this was EG trying to get Riot. Now, I don't think EG is poor, so like to abuse these rules in this way is kind of shitty, and nobody's pointing this out. I mean, I think this conversation has been, you know, the outcry was like, we must protect Danny, and nobody was like, but wait, extreme mental pressure is part of this job, and like we just have to accept that in a highly competitive environment, that's what it is. And maybe this was truly awful and deserving of this emergency. I'm not saying it isn't, but I am saying that this precedent, I think, is not great. And I think that the substitution rules obviously should be changed in order to affect this, but also teams shouldn't be allowed to abuse them in this way. So there's like several layers of fuckery here. And on top of the fact that given Danny's performance, which could have been, you know, part and parcel of the mental health issue, like he certainly looked like he was flipping out on stage.
We took a look at their win cam on FaceCheck after they won, they beat TL in that series, and you saw Vulcan, he popped off, slammed the desk, got up, jumped up. They showed Jojo Pugh, and he's laughing at them and rips his headphones off. You see Danny, and he like they won. You see Vulcan kind of come into his camera, pop it off, and he like cracks a smile for half a second, and it's back to like focus. And then eventually, once everything settled in, he like it all kind of broke down. And like that to me is why, going back to what you said, Dom, it's so difficult to tell to create one rule all the way across per person about the mental health. That's why I liked the fact that Jackie was like, the commissioner was like, hey, in this case, this is an emergency, but Monty, to your point, they have to relook at the rule. They have
I mean,
to go back
why even have it? Like, look,
it now.
If that's how it is, I think that's fine. But like, just say, make the rule that anyone can sub on your academy roster at any point if you need them. Just make that the fucking rule then. If that's the
problem,
rule, there's no problem.
The problem is that creates issues with like teams subbing up and down within academy, right?
Yeah, I mean, I just make it so you have to list them like a week before or something. So.
Yeah, so what happened here is like they had to list them for all the playoffs. And I think that was an interesting thing. Normally it's week to week. So there was like a playoff roster lock. And I don't know. It just kind of feels like in this case, the rules or regulations that you have are bad if you have to use an executive order to fix it. I'm highly sure I'm in Chicago, got to talk with a ton of staff. I'm highly sure that they're going to look at this and change it permanently so that it doesn't be abusable. But that was the reason why I was tweeting about it in the first place. No one was talking about Kaori. No one was talking about the substitute. It was very much a, hey, let's protect Danny, and it felt very much like a move. It was a PR move, and then eventually,
I just wonder like if it would have been handled the same way if it wasn't like, because Danny's like one of the golden boys of the LCS. You know, somebody who's had like a ton of success. Let's say it was like somebody who was like a mediocre player on one of the rosters. Like, would they have the same thing? Like, let's say like Golden Guardians in like their first match, they have to like sub one of their players. Would Riot make the same exception, or would it be like, oh, fuck it, you have to play with your like 80 carry who you list as a sub? He's got a jungle for you for this best of 5. I just wonder like if the rules would have been consistent. It's something that you'll never know, but I think that's just like the only thing that's strange to me is like they didn't even discuss the rule at all. They just like blew over that whole part of it, and like the rules have to be there for a reason. So like they should at least address it. Or I mean, I don't even like, I'm fine with the academy roster being able to sub in. Like I'm fine with that concept. I just want there to be some type of statement.
Yeah. Well, hopefully we'll get that at the end of the year. What I've gotten from a sense of being here this whole weekend is that things are changing. Things are changing because it's Jackie's first year being commissioner. She took over middle of the split. A ton of outlets were here doing interviews with her and getting to know her perspective and how she's going to be driving change here. And I think it's just going to take this future offseason to see what happens. And I do love that question, Dom. If it was, let's say it was, an AD carry over like Stix A or something, or for Golden Guardians, and they have that. I don't know if it actually goes through, but we will never know. What I do know is that she's now starting to apply her authority, to old rules, and eventually we'll make them.
I mean, I will say that seemingly LCS is getting better. Like as a viewer, I'm enjoying it.
As like much as the negatives are of this particular situation, as somebody who has spent years being a commissioner myself, I would not have handled this issue this way. Sure. I will say that this weekend was significantly better, and the improvement has been very real in terms of production quality, which was shit with LCS for a long time. Now, I don't agree with everything that LCS has done. So you're going to have some misses though with the hits. So like, for example, the whole like Dash Kobe fighting thing was cool and well made, but literally did nothing to get me hyped for playoffs or have anything to do with League of Legends at all. So like, I don't understand why you spend so much money on something like that. That seems like a miss to me. But what seems like a hit was a lot of bringing back all the old players, having this lead-in of top players in NA of all time, bringing them into the stage like we saw from the LCK last year. There was a sense for the first time, I think, ever of history within the LCS, which I thought was great. I thought it was really well done.
Yeah. In the stadium, I tweeted out, I don't know how it came off at home, but in the stadium, those were all major hits. It was a ton of fun to watch and very nostalgic, and it was a lot of fun. For you all at home watching, what was your favorite part about the LCS ceremony, and do you feel like it's getting better? Let us know in the comments below after you subscribe, of course, for more of your League of Legends content at Deserto. All right. I want to give you your final thoughts here, Dom, on like the way things are going for the LCS.
Well, I mean, I think it's just been positive. I think they've done like very obvious things that just make the experience of watching 10 times better. So like bringing the pro on for like a guest cast and analysis. They don't have to be the most articulate person in the world, but people like Whippo, like he just has what it takes.
Yeah, that's great.
He's just one of those guys who you just talk to him and you know that he's going to fit into that perfectly. Like he knows how to keep it light, also provide insight, like doesn't come off as like super fucking arrogant or like, oh, I'm like a pro, I'm so better. Like these players are like so bad. He doesn't have that type of like vibe to him really when he's doing it. So I think that when they started bringing like, I mean, Fudge has a little bit of that vibe, but like he's funny enough that it's good to watch. I think that was something that was really positive for LCS. Like bring somebody that's a pro and just like have you get to like spend some time with the pro players in a way, because right now there's no way to, like before there was, you know, the vlogs, there was the TSM vlogs, you had more content that teams were producing, so you can actually kind of get to know some of like the personalities. But if you're not like in the scene directly, you just don't know any of these players. So for like fan to pro player connection, I think it's good. And then also I just think that pro players generally, if they're articulate, are just going to be like pretty good casters, though, or at least in a tri-cast they'll be able to provide value in terms of insight. I think that was really good. I think pro to pro is a really good segment where they have high like discuss the game with another pro player. I think that that's just like valuable in and of itself. I don't know. It just felt like LCS was better to watch this year, which was different because like for 2020, 2021, like you were feeling the decline from 2019 to 2020 to 2021. LCS was just getting less and less enjoyable. The games felt like they didn't fucking matter. And then now for some reason, even if the results, like I'm not expecting anything great from NA at Worlds, but even without the results, like I still think that it's become more watchable. So yeah, I mean, I think it's been, probably the best year of LCS in like 4 or 5 years.
Yeah, in a long time. I agree.
There you have it on the production side and a lot of the business side of LCS. But we're in Chicago because we had ourselves some matches, the 3 best teams.
Oh, right. 3-0? Yeah, that one.
It really didn't feel like it, though. If anyone came and said hi, thank you so much. A lot of love for the jungle guys. A lot of people came up to me and said, hey, tell Dom I love him, tell Monty I love him. It was really, really cool to see and feel the impact of what we do this weekend, and it was a lot of fun. So I wanted to make sure to pass that on. But we had matches. Let's start off there with that 3rd place, or I guess the semifinal match, lower bracket grand final match between Evil Geniuses and 100 Thieves. Obviously, the big story coming into it, Kaori coming in. Everyone and almost everyone assuming that 100 Thieves is going to win. They're in form. They look good. They lost to Cloud9. It was a shock, but you would expect after the shakeup of the roster of Evil Geniuses, maybe they spent everything they had over in Team Liquid. Not so fast. They make a fantastic 5-game series. So let's start there. What did you make of the series here, Monty? I see you the wheels turning here.
No, it's just like, coming into this, from people that I spoke to, I knew that Kaori was going to have a more meta champion pool and was going to pretty much like massively warp the pick ban strategy. So it was really a question of how well he was going to synergize with the rest of the roster. And because ADCs tend to be more plug and play than other roles within this game. So like the way that I was evaluating it was this. So Danny had been underperforming even on the champions he was, supposedly good on, which were not exactly meta champions. He was really not good at playing most of the meta champions. There was this myth going around that he was good at Sivir, even though he only played a handful of Sivir games. It looked terrible on Sivir during the playoffs, so I found that one weird. And they were banning it themselves later on as they went deeper into the playoffs. So this was a situation where I figured it would be relatively plug and play for Kaori. He was going to have a better champion pool. Where it wouldn't have necessarily been plug and play was the laning phase with Vulcan. But frankly, Vulcan and Danny's laning phase was so bad already in these playoffs that I thought, how could it be worse? So is that really...
They've not been good in lane, even in spring. Like they were the type of lane that was just getting solo killed all the time, and then they would just like pop off in team fights, and people would say it was okay.
Yeah, no. Like, I think they were really bad, especially towards the end, even through playoffs and going into MSI, it was a major concern. Then I think they stabilized a little bit earlier this split, but throughout this playoffs, it was pretty bad again. Um, and so I figured, like, well, he couldn't be worse in lane, right? And I had heard very good things about him. I don't follow Academy, but I talked to a bunch of people who do, who said very nice things about him. So I thought that this was actually probably a slight upgrade on the whole, considering all of the factors that were going into play. And I think that mostly bore out. I mean, he certainly wasn't a standout. Like, if you look at this series, I think that Jojo Pian generally did quite well, but there were also really confusing moments in some of these games where, the throws would come in in game 4 and 5 at Dragons fights that EG just really didn't even need to go after when they already were starting to stack dragons and could easily wait to scale out. So it seemed like the feel that I got was that EG was very desperate to like make the play. And I think we saw that in some of the instances where Jojo Pian was playing Ahri and he would try and overextend to kill the backline as opposed to setting up proper flanks around objectives. And so, I mean, I don't blame them. Like, it's probably really hard to go into that situation with a player who has just flown in that you haven't been practicing with recently. You probably feel like you have to step up in order to win that game. But I think it was pretty underwhelming from both sides, honestly. And after this game, I got a very strong sense that C9 were a heavy favorite in the final.
Yeah, I mean, I think Kaori just looks, or Kaori, I guess is how people were pronouncing him.
Sorry.
Yeah, I mean, I was calling him Kyrie Irving on my stream. I was calling him like all these different types of names. So, I mean, Kyrie looks like he's just better in lane than Danny, just objectively, just from the way that he trades, from the way that he is able to play the matchups. Obviously, there was the Sivir game where, he's swapping for heralds and things like that, where, it's probably just team decisions. And I mean, I think under the pressure, this is pretty much the best you could expect a sub to play who's never played in like a tier 1 league. I think it actually made EG play better during this best of 5. I think they would have played worse with Danny because with a sub, I mean, you have like the vibe within the team where there's not really the expectations anymore. And if your sub's actually performing, you could just play the game. So yeah, I mean, I think that EG did they exceeded expectations, and just seems like in reality, like neither of these teams were going to be able to challenge against Cloud9. It seems like Cloud9 is just hitting like, I mean, they're checking off all the boxes right now of what you need to be, what you need to do to be a strong team. And yeah, I mean, it just doesn't feel like other AD carries could really compete with Berserker. So
yeah,
like in this type of meta, I mean, pretty much this series was like, okay, Kaori's pretty good on Lucian, ban Lucian. All right, he's just like pretty average on other stuff. And, we're still a better team. I think 100 Thieves was a better team even when Danny was playing in these playoffs. Like I would have just said they looked more cohesive. So, I mean, 100 Thieves definitely did not play perfectly by any stretch. I think Abadage had a really bad weekend in general compared to his level of play. Like when they were playing in, winners bracket, all that stuff. He had been playing really well recently. Didn't seem to bring the same energy on stage. And I just feel like the meta for them is not really that great. All things considered, like 100 Thieves, you don't really want to be in a dog jungler Poppy Trundle meta when you have Closer on your team. Like what you want is you want a full clear carry jungle meta, a Viego meta where this guy can pop off and actually like, take over games. But right now, I mean, he just doesn't.
We saw it from him saving them on Lee Sin earlier in the playoffs, right? Like that's what you want is for him to make the play, not be like, I clear 3 camps and pillar you.
Yeah, I mean, that's literally the meta right now in LPL because lanes are so they're so volatile with a lot of the matchups. Like you're getting a lot of like Azir versus LeBlanc or any of these types of lanes. Half the time the jungler will just clear 3 camps and then go find the enemy jungle. Like you're not even actually making a play. You're like, I just want to go like find the enemy jungle, and you just sit there and you just look at the enemy jungle. You just look at him. You just look at him and you're like,
I
he's
have the ward.
Yeah, it's like he's right here. You can play however the fuck you want now because we see the enemy jungle. And then your Azir can like trade Azir in lane. He can win every trade because he's able to he doesn't have to save it to escape. Your lanes can just play like absolute monkeys, and then you just end up having lanes to get ahead. So in this type of meta, like I don't think it actually is a great meta for 100 Thieves, but I don't even think Closer is like playing this meta super well. He seems like the type of player where it's almost like he gets bored when he plays champions that are utility. Like he just doesn't view it as like, oh, there's that much skill, you know. Some junglers just have the ego of like, of course I can play Poppy. Like if you can play like Lee Sin, of course you can play Poppy. But then you watch this Poppy and it's like, you're kind of missing a lot of ults. Like you have to really like understand how the fight's going to go. You can't just outplay them. It's more just like understanding what is the right thing to do at every single moment. So I think that's not good for 100 Thieves.
Yeah, I mean, it probably would have actually been worse in some ways had Hex Flash been actually enabled for these playoffs, because the way that some of these Hex Flash junglers like Poppy play is even. I mean, you really have to coordinate very well around your team in order to make the most of that ability, and that is like the peak way to use Poppy, right? So I wonder if it would have been even worse. Potentially. Yeah. I mean, in comparison to the other junglers, because the only region that Hex Flash was enabled was Korea, because they were on the previous patch. So
yeah, in the press conference, basically they made EG do theirs after they lost, and then it was 100 Thieves went first because they lost, and then Cloud9 came in afterwards. EG after their loss felt okay. They're like, hey, we have built-in excuse.
What are you gonna do?
They
already made worlds. Like, come on.
Yeah, like it was very weird. The losses in Houston were way worse. It was very depressing. Here it was like, this stinks. But Cowrie took the blame on himself. He was like, I didn't play very well. So for Evil Geniuses, and then Rigby took a lot of the blame for a couple of the drafts there at the end. He was like, I messed us up. And then in the interviews afterwards, I think someone was like, yeah, he messed up draft. We messed up draft or whatever. But with 100 Thieves, it was the same thing, right? 3 straight finals in a row, winning one a year ago and then losing 2 here, both 3-0s, 2 of the fastest ending ones. And I had the chance to sit down with Huhi. It's on my interview. He's like, yeah, we just choked, and now we've choked twice, and it doesn't feel great, but we got to work through it. And when we were in the stadium, I was sitting with a bunch of folks, and they were like, wow, closer looks tilted. And it maybe is the first time where these guys, game 2, when they had the lead and they lost the lead, and then you saw them start going in one at a time, trying to like make plays and then save it. It was the I think I can mentality. I don't think I've seen this team do that for a while. They lose, or they fall behind, or they get picked, and then they try to fight. That was one person at a time running in, and that looked like tilt to the most obvious eye.
Yeah, I think one thing that Papa Smithy has told me about his team is that they're very emotion driven, and so like he his perception of his own roster has been that they take a lot of momentum with them if they're in a good mood, but it can definitely go the other way too. And I can understand, especially in that game 2 versus Cloud9, why it might be a little tilt inducing to have that lead, because honestly, it was a pretty good play by Blabber to like sneak into their jungle and like get behind and one-shot FBI, but like that is insanely frustrating for him to like slip through your defenses like that.
I mean, they knew he was there. I mean, they should know he's there. Like they even took the blast code, and then they just like, I don't know, I guess they thought his W was on cooldown because they saw him go over the wall. So I don't know. I feel like that was something where it's really easy to infer where the enemy jungler is. And I think one of the things that I've noticed just about NA in general is the deductive reasoning just isn't there. It's like there's like zero object permanence when it comes to like where people are. Like if they see somebody
like babies
like somewhere, right? Yeah, they're like babies, like where they'll like see a player like
where's
so for example,
your nose? Where's your nose?
Exactly. Monty, like I mean, I'm sure that as a dad of a young child, you're dealing with a lot of this right now. You're learning, you're seeing your baby learn object permanence. It's the same thing that I want NA to go through, because you'll see, for example, like the Kennen Nocturne game in game 1, which is another example of the same concept, where you see the Kennen flanking on the ward.
It's the world's slowest flank, by the way, which was hilarious, because like you watch him on the
god,
because they're like literally killing the ward, and you see him like walk around the blue buff very, very slowly.
I mean, maybe they've never seen the Nocturne Kennen combo before, but this is something that was even played in LEC. Mad Lions tried it. It's something that LNG played every single like fucking game.
No, I think Cloud9 played it earlier this playoffs, Dom. I'm pretty sure.
Yeah, I mean, the point is this, right? Like if you're playing against this Kennen Nocturne combo, like what the combo is, and if you see the guy flanking, like why are you still letting yourself stay in that position? Like you have to be able to deduce where he is based off like the information you have. There's enough information that you can make educated guesses in this game, and it feels like there's an inability to play around the enemy's like win conditions in NA. It seems like most of the time they're just opting into some of like the worst fights possible, which are extremely avoidable, especially when they're done on vision. Because the thing is, like, when you look at this Nocturne Kennen combo, what makes the Nocturne Kennen combo so strong most of the time is the teleport plus the Nocturne ulti. Yes. Because right now, like, if somebody TPs, you can see the TP. You can see where you're getting TP'd on from. But if you Nocturne ult, because Nocturne ult got buffed from 4 seconds to 6 seconds a while back, now you're dark for 6 seconds. That TP can come in complete fog. So you can literally just TP like right over a wall behind them. And if nobody like goes over that wall, or like you can't ward it obviously because you're in Nocturne ult, then you can get like Kennen flash ulted. You can get completely flanked during the Nocturne ult. But this is like the most like baby flank ever. It's like, all right, Fudge, start wrapping around them. It's like, yeah, okay, we red sweep it. Okay, he sees me on a ward. It's like, yeah, I'm going. Okay, the Nocturne ult comes in like 5 seconds before. You know where the fucking Kennen is coming from. He's still landing like a 3-man ulti, like killing the whole fucking team. So I don't know. It's a little bit weird in that respect.
Well, for that specific play, because that was such a big one, I thought that was going to be a pause, like right afterwards, because there's 2 ways to handle it. One way is to have the Soraka up on the flank, and Soraka can just silence or whatever, right? You could have Soraka there, but Soraka was kind of sitting in the middle, protecting FBI and healing everyone. Or you can do what they did, which was have Abadage on the Azir, create the wall and block him off, which is what happened. He popped the ult, blocked him off, but there was a weird interaction where he popped straight up.
Hit the wall, yeah.
Well, it's because the wall wasn't thick enough for him to go all the way over. But here's the last option that no one ever does in NA, which is like done all the time in Asian regions. Just have somebody mark him on the flank. Like, send your fucking top laner, send someone to go force him out of the flank. Like, you literally send somebody who has the ability. It could even be Poppy. You literally just send somebody up towards him, and it's like, yeah, you have to now walk through this champion in order to get here. You have vision of him the entire time.
Especially because he's walking through a choke point at the banana brush heading into river anyway, so there's not really an excuse not to do that. I did find the game. The Nocturne Kennen combination was played by C9 against their CLG in their first match, which is, I mean, we knew they were going to do it or had the option of doing it from that.
Yeah, I mean,
it's also not rocket science. And this is the thing, is like NA can just run these baby comps that other teams in the world are capable of defeating, because there is very little understanding of win conditions or how to punish people in lane. So like Old Clockman apparently is just free wins in NA every year. Like, just the Old Clockman region.
Well, we just don't have the thing is, there's meta things that shit on Zillion, but there's like, for some reason we can just never play them. I mean, number one, it should be like control mages are like good because you just like dominate the lane. When, you know, Bjergsen went to Worlds with his Old Clockman in 2020, what happened? Like, what happened? Like, GA is playing fucking. They're playing fucking Orianna mid. He's just gapping the fuck out of him, killing him like level 4, right?
Or just all in on the Lucian, dude. That's what, because Lucian mid was meta and he was just getting shit on.
Azir, but like, the other thing is Sylas is just a better Zillion. Sylas just fucks Zillion. Like, it's impossible. It's actually impossible. So like, Zillion should be like a situational counter pick if the enemy team starts blinding like very aggressive champions that don't have the ability to or like just an enemy team comp that dives. So you should be picking Zillion if you're playing against like Cream or somebody from OMG and they're blinding the Akali. That's what you want to be playing the Zillion into. But instead in NA, it's just like you blind Zillion with just Sylas up, and then the Sylas gets picked. And even if you like lose lane to the Sylas, for some reason, like it just never ends up going well. I don't know. It's just really strange to me.
What if I told you that most of the mid laners in this playoffs couldn't play Chainman, so they can't actually counter Old Clock?
That would be sad.
Well, I never want to see Bjergsen's I never want to see Bjergsen Sylas again. It's fine.
But you're right. I mean, it was up in the drafts and the finals against Zillion. So yeah, I just don't like. I just don't fundamentally understand. Well, actually, I do. I'm lying. I do understand NA drafts. You draft Nocturne Kennen, or you draft front to back team scaling team compositions, and you just pick the champions that scale the absolute best. And because no one will punish you, you just wait until you win the game. Now, it's not going to work with teams that actually are able to play aggressively in lane, but they'll have to wait until Worlds to figure that out, I guess. In the meantime, we just get to watch the most passive, like boring, non-punishing play possible. Even in the finals, I was like, really? 2 games of Zilean? This is where we're going?
I mean, it's just a call out to 100 Thieves. I mean, I think 100 Thieves,
Yeah, sure.
100 Thieves should ban it, right? Like in reality, they can't. They're not having good performances mid, but they can't play the counters. So, I mean, Zilean should have a lot of counters. To be fair, like I think that most control mages should just be good into it. I mean, if you see a blind Zilean, like why can't you just play things like Victor, things that do AoE damage that don't have to commit? Because Zilean is really powerful when you're able to ult somebody who's getting focused, but when you AoE multiple members, like then the Zilean ult becomes worthless. Yeah. So there should be ways to play against Zilean, but yeah, it just doesn't happen. So it makes sense, to be honest, the way that Cloud9 drafted it, because like at the end of the day, they're drafting to win, right? And if you think the enemy team has no ability to answer your champions, it doesn't matter if your champions are optimal or not. I just think that it's strange how the same types of champions are always powerful in North America. I mean, Seraphine is another one, and like I made the joke.
Where was Seraphine, by the way, during these finals? It wasn't banned against 100 Thieves. I expected 100 Thieves to at least try and play the Seraphine, considering that has been one of their key champions in their victories throughout the playoffs.
Yeah, I would just say that the Seraphine without Seta into like enchanter matchups, if the AD carry is really good, can be hard. Just later on, I think you just can get. I mean, it's kind of weird, but you can get outscaled as a Seraphine. So I just don't think that they thought that was a reasonable answer into Berserker, because sure, like you can get through the lane probably 10, 20 CS behind, but if the enemy team actually like plays well, has engaged, and they have this fucking insane hyper carry that like a Sivir with a Yuumi on top, I don't know. It seems pretty hard to deal with that guy. I mean, I think that Berserker just kind of smurfed on everyone this entire playoffs. He just looked.
I mean, he's like definitely the playoff MVP, right?
Yeah,
I mean, has there been a performance that good? Like, it's been pretty awesome.
I mean, it's kind of all tangled up in the meta, as Dom said earlier. Like, when you have the best AD carry in this meta, you can get away with a lot, because the odds of that AD carry being punished in the laning phase, I think, are kind of low. And so, especially if you are very good at team fighting or setting up with your team in the late game, that 180 carry can absolutely just dominate these matches. So I think Berserker's performance was really good, but he was also wearing the crown of the meta, right? So is he a real king is the question.
Sure. I guess we'll find out as they're going up against some of the best players in the world in that tough group draw that they have at Worlds. Let's.
By the way, that was actually fucking hilarious that they got
High's face. It's the new ball, right? Because we had Jizuke having it upside down, and that was the meme. High's face. He pulls it out and he goes with the. Oh, it looks so much like the the old girlfriend hot girl meme. It was that kind of face. I was like, oh hi, no, dude.
I am just as an aside, I am actually really intrigued to see T1 versus Cloud9, because you do wonder whether T1 should have kept Berserker over Gumayushi at this point in time. And if this meta persists, I don't think T1's going to be super good at Worlds. So that could be interesting. I don't think Cloud9's going to like beat them, but I do think that matchup is spicy.
Yeah. We were speaking about Zilean earlier. I had one more kind of question about the procession and stuff. They had the greats come out on stage before they had the finals. They brought the trophy out. You know, it was great to see Dyrus come out, and you could see the emotion and all that stuff for him. Obviously, not everyone was there. Afro didn't come. Dom, obviously, you didn't show up, but it was like a procession that a lot.
They didn't give you enough money to sacrifice your co-stream, did they? Well, offered you a whopping $0.
Well, yeah, I mean, it's like one of those things where they're like, oh, we could get you like a setup, but it's like, do I really want to do like one of those setups where you're just like in some room that's unfamiliar with a weird, like, I don't know. I'd just rather do what I'm doing from here. Also, like,
what are you talking about, Dom? Riot's playoff tech was flawless, so it definitely.
Well, I mean, the problem is also like the people that ended up going, I think were like sneaky and double up, but they don't do LEC. So like, I want to be doing LEC into LCS, but yeah, I mean, like it's difficult in that respect. But yeah, I thought the Dyrus on the desk was kind of weird, because like, I've been friends with Dyrus for a while, but he's just not like the most socially aware person. Like, I don't like, people think, oh, he's like I mean, everyone in my chat was like, "Oh, he's so high, bro! Like he's just high as fuck right now on the desk.
No, he's just
saying shit."
No, he's
just how he is.
Yeah, that's just literally how he is. But like, I don't know if it's good when you bring somebody who's like, yeah, I haven't watched LCS in like 5 years. I just fucking troll voted the fuck out of like my LCS top 10 players of all time list that I was, one of the only people that was privileged to have the chance to vote on. And then he just comes out up on he's on the analyst desk and he's just calling the players like randoms. He's like, yeah, I don't know any of these players. Like, I just found that extremely strange.
It's anti-hype. It's anti-hype for sure.
But it was definitely fan service. It was fan servicey.
But it doesn't matter because I think it lost more than it brought. And the thing about Dyrus that I really like, and I like Dyrus as a person, and I'm friends with his dad. You know what I mean? So
Dyrus, yeah.
Dyrus, yeah. I like hang out with him when I go to Hawaii and like whatever. Anyway, I love his dad.
Flex, Monty. You go to Hawaii,
hang out with Dyrus. Anyway, he's a great guy. Love him. So one thing that I really like about Dyrus is he's just honest about this stuff. Like he'll just say, I haven't watched this. And he doesn't like come in and, I mean, he'll do it if you ask him to do it, but it's not like he wouldn't have been forthright with the people who are asking him to do it. So it's like the producers made that decision anyway, even though Dyrus was telling them like, I haven't watched LCS. I don't know who these people are. He's not going to pretend to know who they are, right? He's just a really honest guy. And so I just don't understand why that decision was made. That was weird.
Well, I mean, for me, the way that I see it is like you look at, the ovation he got when he actually showed up, and I feel like that's what you bring him there for. It's like, oh, we have this like legend here. Yeah. Maybe if you do like an interview with him personally about like like a where is he now type thing. Like I think that's fine, but why like bring him on the desk to like analyze the games like in between games? Like, hey, Dyrus, what do you think about these guys? It's like I don't know the fucking players. They're all fucking piss randoms. It's like Jesus.
Great, thank you, Dyrus. Appreciate your review. Let's get back to it here with who else was on with him. Was it? There was 2 players, right? It was Dyrus and someone else when he went on. I was in the.
I don't recall,
but you just go back to now. So I think it's just that moment because people wanted to see that honesty. People wanted to.
Do they want to see that?
I think so. It's not every week. It's not every. It was only for one segment. But yeah, I think
but you can just change the segment. Like if you really want Dyrus, what I would have done is put him on there and gone over like some of his most famous plays and been like, how is it, seeing your plays from this many years ago and being in this stadium now and seeing the continuing legacy of the LCS and done something that was more personal and something that he could talk about, right?
Yeah.
There's a lot of things you could do.
It was a gamble, and as we know, LCS trying things. That one was maybe one off. The other one that kind of caught my attention, very end, right? You get Bjergsen and Doublelift carrying the trophy out together. It surprised everyone. It was really cool. But the first thing I thought was like, you're making Bjergsen carry the trophy out after getting knocked out of Worlds the day after? Like, that felt tough to me.
It was the day after.
Down the road, 5 years down the road, yes, glad he did it. He'll look back and be like, yes, we're celebrating 10 years, and I'm a big part of that 10 years. And yes, this year didn't work out, but, you're part of history. But I was like, man, Bjergsen...
it's like no one said no, man. Like no one verified.
Okay.
Like, the people that made the decision were like, wait, what the fuck? Wait, he's still a player? Wait, what do you mean he was playing? He was in the 4th place match? Holy shit. I thought this guy was retired.
Biofrost was there. He's still playing.
I don't know. It's like
I think you and I may have different definitions of playing, Dom. But he was physically present.
Well, I mean, yeah, you watched a lot of Korean League of Legends, and they don't do much game playing over there either.
That's true. They just sit there.
I will say we do have different definitions.
That's why we like Live Sandbox. Krako sucks, but he sucks in the most entertaining way possible.
Yeah, I mean, Sandbox is my favorite team with Domlon. I mean, I've just always been a Domlon enjoyer, but Sandbox was my favorite team to watch.
Dude,
but I mean, they're just
funny as fuck.
Like, a lot of the things they do, it's just. Yeah, I mean, it's a complete illness. There was one fight, I was reviewing one of the series. There's one fight where they take a 4v5 down a Mumu ult, like clear. They see all 5 champions. They don't have one of their key ultimates, and they just opt into a 4v5. So it's essentially just a 3v5. They get ace versus Genji, lose the game instantly. It was game 1 of their playoff match. That shit hyped me up. I'm like, you have to be just actually insane to take that fight.
That's why it's sad.
So
That's why it's
shameless.
sad they're not going to Worlds. We have fucking horrible DRX instead. Because the thing about DRX is like they are insanely boring, and I really just wanted Live Sandbox to go and just be crazy on people for my own entertainment. Not because I think they would have done well, but because it would have been really fun. It would have.
I think they would have
fun.
done better than say. I'm not a DRX enjoyer myself. I think
nobody
that
enjoys
DRX. Some people do. I've got some Deft enjoyers, people that are like, but it's Deft. He's historic and shit.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I kind of like Zika because he played an LPL the year before. I thought he was pretty good. I think he's pretty good still now. I think he's generally underrated by people that haven't watched him play. But yeah, DRX is boring. I agree.
Yeah. All right. Well, thank you for indulging me on that, like the top 10 ceremony and the players coming out. I thought that was really fun. We needed to touch on it. Before we close off,
how much do we have to talk about this finals, by the way? Because like I think we should talk about. We haven't talked about Cloud9's performance at all.
That's what I was getting to. Yeah,
slamming
before we close off, let's talk about Cloud9. Like,
we're relying on
Cloud9. They're the ones that won. They're the dominant force moving forward.
We're like an hour into this show and finally talking about one of the winning teams from this weekend.
Yeah. Well, because they are who we thought they were. They're the dominant team. They didn't have to show a ton. They played a comp that they already played, and it was like, press R and Berserker, profit. Like those were. It seemed way easier and a lot. I think it's not 100 Thieves play bad because they did, but it's also Cloud9 is that much better in form right now. What do you think, Monty?
Well, I think that Berserker played like shit because he got the one death on a winning AD carry team from this entire weekend. So he had infinite more deaths than comp. So probably he should be looking to be replaced on C9.
Retire. Should quit.
Jokes aside, it is pretty impressive that both comp and Berserker combined for a whopping one death in 6 games. But this was game 2 was the only one that was remotely close. I mean, I appreciate that Cloud9. Here's what I like about Cloud9. I like that they have a lot of confidence, that they want to play carry top lane matchups, that they have certain pocket comps like the Nocturne Kennen that are not, it has been played other regions, as Dom said earlier, but it's not like the standard, right? So you have to include that in your pick ban phases when you're going against them. Berserker's performance has also been really good. Even little things. Zven has gotten like a lot better at support in terms of one thing that I think will be underrated was that in the weird start to the 3rd game of the series, when C9 did that invade that arguably put them behind, like I like that they have the balls to go for these plays.
They could have got one more kill there. They fucked up the return kill because when somebody, I forget who it was, somebody flashed over into them and they like split their focus instead of just hitting the guy that had no flash. They would have got an extra kill, but still.
Yeah. There was also like, it was unfortunate that like Lulu ended up with the red buff and the kill or the kill. Yeah. And so like the smite issue. So there were like a lot of things that could have gone differently. I mean, Abadega could have also like, I don't know, walked down there, but that's a separate issue. So I think that there were, but it was the point is this: it was a very weird start to that game, and the result was that Blabber ended up being kind of behind, and you saw the kind of proper play of Closer, then trying to invade the jungle after the recall and try and set him up. And what was impressive to me was Zven actually recalled himself after the push, and then came into the jungle in order to provide backup. And like that's a play that. These are things that you have to do on the fly, and for a new support player to be making these decisions, I thought was really indicative of a lot of Zven's growth. How he handled that, how he handled the advantage that he got on support, and tried to translate that into helping Blabber back into the game and providing pressure was a really good sign. So I think across the board, this is a team that is very fun, at least, is aggressive, does like to take risks, especially when they're ahead, and try and destabilize the opponent. And I'm looking forward to seeing them at Worlds. And it's surprising because they spent so much of this season being pretty mediocre, and I do think that the meta has shifted into their favor. But they took it and ran with it. And they have seen, Fudge has been improving since he got back into the top lane. Jensen was pretty rocky for a lot of the regular split, but at least has found a pool of champions that he can be meaningfully good on. And then Blabber and Berserker, I think, have been kind of the standouts.
Well, I mean, I think it's also just like the meta is really good for somebody who plays AD carry that's transferring to support. Like this type of like enchanter meta, I mean, it's essentially you're positioning a lot of the time. Like the other thing is like when you're when you're an AD carry player, you know what you need from your support in those situations. So then when you go to the support, you're like, okay, like these are when he's going to be walking up to auto. These are the key spells that are going to be down. So these are the pockets that he's going to be looking to play aggressive in, all that type of stuff. So I think that it's actually a really perfect meta for a player like Zven, because even when you look at the other champions that are picked, it's like Renata is similar to like a similar function, and then like the counter to Renata is Ashe support. It's like who would you want to see playing an Ashe support besides for a fucking AD carry, you know?
Yeah,
so,
they did do that earlier too.
Yeah, so for me, this is like a really good meta for Zven. I think the meta that I think will be really difficult for him as a support player is if you get into a meta where there's like a lot of Rakan, there's a lot of Nautilus,
Engaged champs. Yeah.
I mean, engaged champions, but then just being able to like find those windows. It's like pretty hard to not just int your face off in a professional game when you are super starved compared to everyone else and you're playing an engaged champion. Like that's why people like Ming get Nautilus banned so frequently, is because he knows how to engage with Nautilus and not kill himself. Because normally, like if you try this and you're not precise with your entries, you're going 0-10. Like you're just gonna have one of those Nautilus games. You're just dying over and over and over again. So I think that the meta right now is actually really good for Zven. And I think it's just a support meta where you don't need to have the same the same like skill set that you needed to be a support in like the last like 2-3 years. So I think that the timing of what meta we're in right now is actually really good for Cloud9 overall.
Yeah, I mean that's a good point. When you're an AD carry, you're not really concerned with the engage. You're reacting to an engage and then counter engaging, and so being the engage yourself is quite the difference.
Yep.
But like, I will say, like at least one of the positive aspects of Zven as a player is that he's always been very vocal, even out of the AD carry role. So I would, in time, I think that he will learn how to do that and be able to really communicate that very effectively to his team.
And,
I hope so.
For world success, this is a lot of it. It's like, hey, is this the right meta for us? Will we be able to make it in? So that's really cool. And to your point, players that are good at those engaged supports, but then they go to worlds and get punished at it, like immediately come to mind. It's Vulcan, right? On Cloud9 when he was playing for Zven on the Leona, on the Nautilus. And it was just like, yeah, in NA, he didn't get punished. But then how many times did we see him like cook, land on something, and then like get killed walking backwards trying to flash and then dies? Like that happened all the time. So Zven doesn't have to worry about that right now. That's not the meta that we're in. It's going to change, obviously. But Cloud9 looking good and looking like definitely the class of NA and fueling the hopium as Worlds coming to NA. So going to be a lot of fun. Awesome. Final thoughts on LCS before we move on over to Europe and their cast of stars. Sweet. All right.
Yeah, I mean, I think that this is probably like one of the most exciting NA teams because at least they don't have any bad players. You know, like every other NA team that you've sent, to Worlds, you've been like, ooh, I hope that the enemy teams don't catch on to like this weakness. You know, like really hope that they don't figure this shit out.
I mean, my question is this: is Danny going to play at Worlds? Because if I had to make a choice, because remember, this is Cowrie coming in from Europe without any synergy with this squad. If I'm EG, I'm just going to put, unless I think the meta is going to change, which it probably won't change a lot. I know, Dom, you tweeted that you think Kai'Sa's going to come back into the meta, which is obviously huge for RNG. But I think especially at the AD carry position, we may not see a lot more changes. What are your thoughts on that front, Dom? Because I haven't been in solo queue recently, so I don't.
Yeah, I'm not sure. I mean, people obviously always love Kai'Sa in solo queue. I mean, I think that's just a given. I think that the interesting thing about the meta is really just going to be like what is going to be played in the support role, and I think that will be dictating it. Because if like Lulu is just broken, right? Then you have a lot of like, then you start going down the rabbit hole of like Soraka becomes valuable, and there becomes like these types of picks, which I think are easier to get through lanes on. But I think the biggest issue that teams are gonna have to worry about is like the AD carries playing aggressively. I think that Cloud9, even though they have a hard group because they got EDG and T1, I actually feel like they're kind of okay to be in this type of group because they have like a really good AD carry. They're not going to just get absolutely booty blasted by Viper. I mean, there's a chance, right? Because I didn't think Gala was going to get booty blasted by Viper, but Viper was just like all up in there. It was just fucking crazy. So, like, I don't like he's kind of a different breed. I hope that Berserker can kind of hold his own. And yeah, I mean, I think it's a better matchup than some of the other ones because a lot of the other teams at Worlds, like, so for example, when I look at like JDG, right? Like JDG essentially just has their top laner is literally just like Odoamne on crack. That's what I would just view him as. 369 is just a cracked version of Odoamne. He plays all of Odo's champions, but he just looks like a fucking beast on them. And when I feel like a team plays like that, and they're playing like this really difficult mid jungle combo, I feel like that's very exploitable. Or that's a big way to exploit NA teams. I think the weakest part of NA right now is mid jungle synergy. I think JoJo Inspired is probably the best, but the weaknesses on the other fronts are so severe, in my opinion, that it's like you being not that much worse mid jungle is not going to carry the game. So I think that the meta isn't even like the thing that I'm looking at the most. It's more just like how the stylistic matchups go. And I think that Cloud9 is actually probably fine with this stylistic matchup. I think that this is probably one of the more passive mid jungles you can get out of the LPL when you compare that to like Tia Knight. You compare it to your Gal Kanavi.
T1, right?
Yeah. So I just think that those are that you'll take this draw because there's not that much of a difference between like RNG and EDG. People have this mentality of like, but RNG is like the 4th seed. It's like, what the fuck does that even mean, being the 4th seed from? Yeah, they're the 4th seed from LPL. They fucking won MSI, bitch. Like they were like the number 1 team in the fucking world. Like what? Like they won LPL, which is the hardest league, and then they won MSI. Everyone thought T1 was gonna fucking beat RNG, and they like RNG is not a fucking bad team. Like RNG has like some things.
You also thought that.
Yeah. That's my point. That's my point. Is that like RNG is fucking good. They surpass expectations. So now people just have the same mentality. But I mean, the point is even more that it's not even just that like I thought that like T1 versus RNG would be close, and that was like what I got criticized heavily for on this show. Like our comments were like, yeah, this guy's delusional. He's just like a LPL dick sucker. Like he just thinks that like that T1 won't 3-0 stomp RNG, and then like RNG ended up winning. Like I said 3-2. So the idea that T1 like can lose to RNG, and then because RNG is now 4th seed, people are like, yeah, but they got so much worse. Like, why do they get that much worse? Oh, because Bin's not on the team. Wait, but Bin was like the weakest part of RNG for pretty much the majority of the run up until finals of LPL. Like he was running it down, and now Breathe is actually
the
looking
narrative.
Good.
Yeah, the narrative around that was when the trade was made was that it was actually an upgrade on a championship team.
Sure. I mean, I think that in general, they're like, I mean, they're pretty fucking similar players. Like Bin and Breathe are pretty similar players. Like they have the same style champion pool. They're really fucking good on carries. Like in game 5 of the LNG series, what is Breathe pulling out? He's blinding Fiora into a guy that is known for his jacks. Like that is, I mean, Someday did it and he got his ass clapped. But you know what? Like it's a little bit different when Breathe does it. You know, I respect the mentality from Someday, but you know, it wasn't all there.
Someday doesn't have the carry top laner pedigree or reputation. That's never who he's been.
I mean, my point is this: like, I think that it's better for C9 to match up against a team like EDG because EDG is like one of the slower paced LPL teams. They are probably the slowest paced LPL team, and one of the things that I would really worry about is because LCS likes playing at their own pace. They like playing scaling. They like playing things like Zillion. If you play against a team that is just like coming to fucking dive you every fucking wave, you're going to be so panicked in the game. You're just going to make a bad decision at some point and the whole game's going to explode. So I think there's a mentality right now that 100 Thieves got lucky by getting a like better group. But I actually think that that's not even true. I think that you'd literally rather I think for Cloud9, I don't think you'd want to play against Gen G RNG.
Yeah, I like your point there where it's like, okay, if it's slower paced, well, we won off of playing slower paced. At least we'll have the opportunity to play our style rather than, as you said, just getting shock and awed by better teams that play fast and dive you at they're able to execute the level 3 dives.
I think what's interesting about T1 is that they do play pretty fast early and they will play to aggressively push in their side lanes, but they're also exploitable through the bot lane, right? So.
Yeah, so that's what I think is good about that matchup because Berserker actually, I think could win lane against Gumayusi. Like, I'm not ready to just say Gumayusi is a better
No,
AD
no,
carry
no.
than
He's
Berserker.
been playing super bad. So
He's been
that's
playing,
not even
he's been playing
that's
so
not even
bad
an
recently.
outrageous. It's not even an outrageous statement at all. I think that T1 matches up pretty badly against EGG actually. So
yeah, I mean, we'll have to see. I mean, it's the same thing that
I
you
think
just mentioned.
here's an interesting take. I think T1 matches up well and stylistically against JDG, but badly against EDG.
Well,
I'm not saying they would beat either team. I just think T1 would play a better game against JDG.
Yeah, I mean, it's hard to know. I don't really know like how good, because T1 is like a weird team, right? I mean, all the hype was on Zeus. Okay, so as somebody who like I didn't watch much early in the regular season, I started watching like halfway through regular season into like playoffs. Like, am I just supposed to accept that Zeus is better than 369? Like, is that something I have to accept? Because I think 369 is a better player.
Zeus was like pretty mediocre in playoffs, but also he wasn't getting a lot of help from his team, and they like stopped. He stopped playing a lot of carries or being the main focus because it felt like everything they were doing was trying to triage their losing bot lane. So it's hard to know, honestly, because I think he was not given the resources to be the best player he could be.
Yeah, I mean, we'll see. I think that that T1 actually, so T1 versus EDG seems to me like T1 versus Gen G. I feel like the game will be similar to how T1 versus Gen G. Like, if you want to draw a comparison, like Ruler Viper, like I think that is like pretty much the same dynamic there, where you have like this like really monster AD carry that has like wide champion pool, can not only play like the fucking the AD carry trait of Zeri Sivir, but he could pull out the Lucian and he could pull out like aggressive AD carries and win. So I think that that's like a good thing for EDG. That being said, like I mean, I don't think that RNG is a good matchup for C9. I don't think that that's good for C9 or 100 Thieves. I just think that the way that you have to beat RNG is through mid jungle and like diving sides. Like you have to like pick stuff that is going to like make sure that Xiaohu is locked in lane. But is Jensen going to be able to do that?
He's going to play old Clockman and just sit there.
Yes. So then, and if you let RNG, if you let Xiaohu and Wei play however the fuck they want,
also,
they're going to kill everyone.
Just based on C9's play, this split, like what's weird about Jensen is even when he plays champions that should affect the side lanes, like Talia, he just doesn't go to side lanes. He just sits in mid, and then it's not that he doesn't play it well in team fights, but it's like he's not proactive out of the mid lane ever.
Yeah. Well, I mean, he wasn't that great in lane until recently.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, he's still not great in lane, but like Jensen at least was solid. Yeah, he was at least he wasn't losing lane, whereas before it felt like IWDominate was getting the best of him in the previous series. So, yeah.
All right, let's talk about LEC. As much as we get excited about talking about stylistic matchups between Korea and China, which I think is very interesting.
We're setting up some NA copium right now. Like that was a lot of NA copium from the two of you. We could call it Western copium, so maybe EU fans can join in as we host Worlds this year. But let's head on over to LEC. Rogue does it. Odoamne gets it done. As you said, no deaths for comp. Rogue gets over the line. Congrats to Rogue.
Also, shout out to Odoamne for playing like a fucking beast both days, because I think he was the MVP probably of the first day of playoffs, even though I would agree that comp was the MVP of the finals. But Odoamne was playing much better. And I think what was surprising about Rogue, because this was what was so frustrating about watching Rogue play, is that earlier in the playoffs, they would get fucking Exodia comps like, Azir, Renekton, Zeri, Yumi, and then somehow fucking lose. It's like they couldn't actually win these games or apply proper pressure around the Renekton. They couldn't snowball the Renekton's lead or like make it easy for the Zeri Yumi to get into the late game. Like they have compositions that many of the top teams in the world would just flatten you with. And so to watch them really struggle with their win conditions and then lose those games and then have to go in an entirely different direction really made you question Rogue. But by the time we got to this weekend, they were much better about, figuring out the Renekton stuff. And I think that was there were two things that I think really helped Rogue. One of which was like figuring out how to play around the early pressure that some of these champions create that are priority picks around the world for a good reason, which then drew Renekton bans, which then opens up Larsen's champion pool. And also Larsen, who had a pretty mediocre split by his standards.
The whole team had a bad split. For them, they had a bad split.
A lot of that was he finally was not getting what?
No, I think you lagged for a second there, but no, I think the whole team had like a pretty bad split in terms of like what they normally do in regular season. They didn't look like, even when they were winning games, it didn't look like they were super dominant. So,
no,
I mean, I think that this is actually such a crazy Rogue win. Like if you just look at
wild.
I mean, this is the split where they shouldn't have won. You know, all the other splits are the ones where it's like, oh, you're like the favorites. Like this was a split where I think it was tough for them. I mean, look at their look at their fucking games that they played versus G2 just a week ago. They're not even close at any of the games. I heard from a source behind the scenes that they literally had like a 15% scrim record in the last like 2-3 weeks. Like 15%? They went like 9 and like fucking 50 or some shit. Like it was crazy.
Well, I think it was a lot of it was just figuring out some of these win conditions that they were really struggling with before. And like, if you go back and look at some of these matches that they played against G2, you know, the Lucian was getting banned out, the Callista being banned out on both sides, and the Poppy being banned out on both sides. And when we come back into this next series, it becomes a lot more, I think, difficult because G2 is trying to ban out comp and like pulling like 3 ADC bans. And Rogue is coming through and pulling out the Caitlyn, like going back to the Tahm Kench, which is not the most standard in this meta. And G2 has to then, in the third game, ban the Renekton because finally the Renekton is a threat. The thing about Rogue was that they weren't ever snowballing the Renekton or really playing well around it. So that, I think that is a huge, huge difference for them in that it opens up a lot of other picks. And also Larsen played a fuck ton better over this past weekend. And, you know, the G2 is really reliant on Caps having these immense pop-off moments. And as we've seen from MSI, as we've seen from Caps' career, when he does that, it's great. And it can push you over the top to make you contend with world-class teams. But day by day, like, you shouldn't have to rely on that. That is not something you need to rely on to win a championship. Like, you need the other pieces of your roster to step up. And Flacket and Targamas...
But this is what everyone's been saying the whole time. Like the bot lane can't lane, right? So going into this, I did a segment on my stream where I discussed how Rogue can win. And I thought the number one mistake that Rogue was making versus G2 before was allowing them to weak side their bot lane. I think that you want Flacket to be playing Draven. You want, like, even if he gets a kill, whatever, you want him to play Draven. You want to play the Sivir trade. Like, you want him to have to carry the game and neutralize the other parts of the map. So I feel like finally they forced like the bot lane to actually be active in the game. And you see when G2 can't just press Seraphine ult, when they can't just press send a Seraphine ult from like 10,000 range as their fucking bot lane, and they actually have to get in there and win. They have to make like the micro decisions to win and lose fights. That's when G2 just is at their worst. So yeah, I mean, I think in a way it's kind of good that they got called out, I think, because G2, I don't think that they realized how significant their weakness was, especially from their prep. Like, it felt like they thought that their bot lane could compete.
Well, they have time to go ahead and fix that. One thing we don't have time for is more jungle. Obviously, we're on the road. We're doing this one split across multiple time zones yet again. So this one, we're going to cut a little bit short. So EU fans, don't worry. We will have more content for you over on LoL Esports. So make sure to go ahead and like and subscribe. You can obviously catch Monty, Dom, and myself on our socials. Ping away at the questions that you have. We'll read the comments and we'll get back at you with our next episode of The Jungle. Appreciate everyone for watching. Again, thank you for all the kind words, and we'll see you for next episode.